This page says most common because they are. These are the pathogens that you are going to come across over and over again. There are other pages in here which list many other pathogens. So if it doesn't show up here, you have other places to look. Yet this is a great place to begin. We're going to talk about this homeopathically, about miasms. This first list on the upper left of your page, these are miasms in homeopathy. The word miasm comes from the Greek, which means tainted. Just a little bit.
How do you spell that?
Which, miasm? M-I-A-S-M.
M-I-A-S-M?
Uh-huh.
This one's tainted.
Now, miasms are the things that we come into this lifetime with that we didn't get to vote on. Compliments of mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, great-grandpa. Things get into family lines and just repeat generation after generation. Whether or not they manifest is unique to each individual. Many individuals can go through their lives with these pathogens never causing any problems. Sometimes it's a problem when you're 2. We all have unique paths. These all have characteristics. The first one here is called psora. Psora is where the word psoriasis comes from. Psoriasis, as we know, is dry skin, very chronic dry skin. Well, that's one manifestation of psora. That's when psora inhabits the organ skin. What happens is you have underproduction. There isn't enough fluid. Things are dry. That's the characteristic of psora. When it lives in the skin, you have psoriasis. Psora, of course, can manifest itself anywhere. Pick an organ. Pick a gland. It could be there. And wherever it is, there's going to be a lack of production. Okay? I'm going to skip down to psychotic. Psychotic is the gonorrhea miasm. This is remarkably present in our culture. Probably 85% of the population. When an individual has gonorrhea in this lifetime, when you get gonorrhea, there's a lot of production of fluid. Things are very, very juicy with gonorrhea. Things are overproductive, overactive. That's the characteristic of active gonorrhea. When it's a miasm, it still has that overactive characteristic, depending on where it lives. Again, it could be in any organ, in any endocrine gland. It could have chosen any of those places to live, and it will have a quality of overproduction, too much. Lucinum, that's the name for syphilis. Individuals who have syphilis that's active in this lifetime, they suffer from bone deformation, particularly the jaw, chronic loss of teeth. Our terrific founding father, George Washington, was very syphilitic. That's why all his teeth fell out. People who have really, really bad teeth, that's very syphilitic. Do you remember the movie, the guys go into the backwoods with the canoes and they meet the backwater people, Burt Reynolds, what was that?
Deliverance, isn't it?
Deliverance, right. And those characters that lived in the woods who had the pointy chins and the ears that stick out, That's a deformation of the skull from syphilis.
Oh.
Yeah. So when syphilis is happening, you still get sort of normal, in terms of amount, growth, except the growth is twisted. It's not right. The growth is twisted. So these are the three of the main miasms that are spoken about in homeopathy. And it's very easy to remember them because their characteristics are too little, too much, and twisted. So these miasms are really at the basis of all diseases. You can't think of a disease that doesn't meet the conditions of too little, too much, or twisted, or some combination thereof. The other miasm, which is a little farther down the page, is verruca. Verruca is the wart virus. Now we give warts different names depending on size, shape, color, location. They're all the same virus. It just grows in different sizes, shapes, colors, and locations. What would a wart look like if it grew on the inside of your body?
Tumor.
A tumor or a cyst. So if there's tumors or cysts, that means the verruca wart virus is present in helping that grow. Now, back to those characteristics of too little, too much, and twisted. What happens with syphilis is the cells are not correctly made. That is the definition of cancer.
Say that again, please.
Everybody who has cancer has syphilis in the background.
Oh.
Everyone who has syphilis does not have cancer. Cancer is at the source of all forms of cancer. We have people researching pituitary cancer and prostate cancer and breast cancer, and everybody's looking for different stuff without realizing the cause is the same in every instance. They think it's different. It's not. It's always syphilis. Every time. So, if you have a tumor growing on the inside, and it's hooked up with the psychotic miasm, the gonorrhea, it's going to grow really, really fast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
But it's benign. But it's going to grow fast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the same tumor is hooked up with syphilis, that's going to be cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The cancer has to be present for that sort of twisted form to take place. The other classic miasm is tuberculosis. Tuberculosis miasm, of course, affects the lungs. Anyone who has a chronic lung issue, someone who's been allergic since, they were 3 years old and that sort of stuff, tuberculosis will be in the background, definitely. And then what tuberculosis does is it compromises the lung tissue, and then when you catch something else, that never goes away completely. And so you add to your collection.
Can I ask you something in like the regards of like the cancer and stuff? If the body is alkaline, can
Makes
these
no
bugs?
difference.
It makes no difference.
Makes no
It still can
difference.
grow.
It makes no difference. That's just somebody's good idea.
Right. Well, I'm thinking of Dr. Warburg in 1938 won the Nobel Prize for finding the cause of cancer, a German scientist in 1938. The gist of it, he talked about it's bugs, bacteria, fungus, but when the body becomes acidic, these, whatever you want to pick, he says bacteria, fungus, or virus can grow in an acidic body. And his theory was if you keep the body alkaline and oxygenized, because these bugs grow in oxygen depleted environments, basically. And then he said the secondary cause is lifestyle, what you eat, emotions is probably the biggest one, and then
Okay.
exposure to chemicals.
Okay, all of
But-
these things are addressing symptoms.
Mhm,
None of those are addressing cause.
mhm.
This addresses the cause.
So even if your body was, by his theory, if your body was alkaline, you still would get these,
Right.
these symptoms.
It's still
Doesn't
gonna
matter.
happen.
Okay.
Right. That may slow it down.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, it's still gonna happen.
Okay.
Okay. The rest of these things are not spoken about in homeopathy as being your classic miasms. And I find that these things also come through at birth. The STDs, such as herpes simplex, progenitalis, zoster, also chlamydia. Also we have cytomegaliobacteria, cytomegalovirus, and HIV. All of these things can come through at birth, as well as the things that are listed below, the tuberculosis, all three kinds of tuberculosis. We have 4 or 5 different kinds of pneumonia, Epstein-Barr, mono, asthma, bronchitis, pleuritis, sinus, tonsils. You can see that's our happy little lung group. Any of these things can come through for someone just popping in. Sometimes also hepatitis. Below this, we get into the digestive issues. The first thing you see on your list there is Candida. Candida is so pernicious. It's really a big problem. Almost everyone in the population has it. It's probably like 98%. And everyone just believes that the way their digestion is, well, that's normal, isn't it? You have this it's going on. Because what happens is the system degrades in such small increments that we tend to not notice. You know, and it's been degrading over a period of years and decades. And so we've just sort of grown accustomed to it, and we think, well, gosh, that's normal. I will test, this is another one of those things that I'm always interested in, is how high this is, like on a scale of 1 to 10. Your Candida is greater than a 4, greater than a 5, greater than a 6, until I find, you know, what number it's at. That's one of those things I really want to see come down. And the digestive formula that you'll be getting works very well as the dropper bottles that go with this. It really works very well on knocking this down. And that's one of the things that your clients will notice immediately. The people who have Candida, when you start with the little tablets and the dropper bottle, there's an improvement in 24 or 48 hours. People notice the difference in their digestion. And that's really encouraging for them.
What is Candida?
Candida is a yeast overgrowth in the colon. It's a naturally occurring yeast called Manila albicans, and it has a very important job in the digestive process. The other important elements in the digestive process are Lactobacillus bacillus and B. coli. Those are both bacterias. And between those two bacterias and the Manila albicans, they do the majority of work of making your food usable. The remainder of the colon is very sophisticated in what it's doing, okay? And it has all kinds of mutations of those original bacteria that are very sophisticated. What happens is at some point somebody gives us an antibiotic, which kills all of the bacteria in the colon. Wabloom. The yeast form is completely unaffected. Antibiotics, who cares? Now, the yeast form has no competition for growth, and it overgrows, making it difficult for the healthy bacteria to reestablish themselves just in terms of space. It's a battle for space. And one of the reasons that the Candida is so prolific is that we feed it everything it wants. White food. Dairy, sugar, and yeast.
Pizza.
Yes, the American diet. Yeah, it's the American diet. And I mean, and the yeast just loves it, and it just, you know, proliferates and builds more condos, and, you know, just having a great time. It's very valuable to bring that back into balance. We don't want the Manila albicans to go away, we just want it to be in balance with its little buddies. One of the things I mentioned earlier is that when the Candida overgrows, it degrades the wall of the colon, and now stuff's leaking out of the colon before it's processed. The Candida is right here, gets first choice on food, so now you're living on leftovers, no matter how attentive you may be to your diet. What does yeast do with water? Just sucks it right up. So even if you're drinking enough water, you're not getting it. The end result is dry cuticles, dry feet, cracked heels, because the extremities end up not getting enough water. And if the extremities aren't getting enough water, well, neither are your organs. Candida. Aren't you glad you know?
And didn't you say it takes 2 years for your...
No, not that long. When someone takes an antibiotic and it trashes all of the bacteria in your colon, from the time you stop taking the antibiotic and the E. coli and Lactobacillus bacillicus return, they then mutate and create another generation which does something else, and mutate and create another generation, and so on, so forth. As I've said, it's very sophisticated what's going on down here. So, from the time that you stop taking the antibiotics until the colon has completely rebuilt itself is a year. Probiotics help, you know, but all probiotics do is they are a precursor for your body to make the right bacteria. The probiotic itself isn't it. That ain't the finished product. So there's a time factor there. That's one of the reasons the antibiotics are such a disaster, is it takes that long to recover from them.
So then with all the farm animals that are given like antibiotics to help the hormones to help them grow, does that affect the Candida growth in people?
The kids are drinking that milk?
No, that wouldn't do it. No, that wouldn't do it. On with our digestive area here. After Candida, some of our favorite and really common parasites like amoebas, botulism, Giardia, beef proteus, Salmonella, Oxyren, Campylobacter. Now botulism and Salmonella, that's, I just call that bad food, which is typically what it is, you know, something that's turned. I will give you, at some point, you'll get a bad food formula, because you come across this very frequently, you know. Restaurants, we do it at home, we take that leftover and go, yeah, I'll heat that up one more time, you know, so it's really easy to do. Oxyren is a parasite that people get from their pets. Yes. It's because our pets lick their butts and then they lick their fur and then we pet them. So people with pets will show up with Oxyren. Campylobacter is the bacterial type of ulcer. Very treatable. Colitis, that's going to be emotional.
Colitis?
Colitis. You know, where your colon's always doing the rumba, right? Yeah, that's emotional. And hemorrhoids.
Demerit's emotional.
Oftentimes they are, because it's about letting go.
Ah.
That book.
Really?
And did you say anger too?
Oh, yeah,
No,
sure.
he said constipation,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
letting go.
yep. And then, in this last little section, there's peritonitis, appendicitis, chronic appendix necrotic. Those are all very related. They're just different stages of the appendix being upset. And when the appendix gets upset, what it does is it will leak junk into the peritoneum, right?
Oh, so sorry.
And then you end up with peritonitis. So those guys are all related. Dupuytren, it's a very unusual thing, and you will run across it. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you seen it, Dupuytren? Where the tendons in the hand become rigid and they stick out, and people start losing mobility.
Tennis.
Hmm?
Tennis.
Oh, that's treatable.
Remember you diagnosed it on tennis.
Oh, how is it? I haven't seen it in so long.
It's stalled since he stopped working as
Oh,
a
okay.
sheriff.
Okay,
Yeah, it's stopped growing and getting worse.
good.
So it's in the hands?
Yes, I found it once in the shoulder, which was very interesting, but typically it's in the hand.
And in
it's
the
the
feet.
in tendons, it's the
Yeah, the tendons become rigid. Yes, it can also affect the feet, although I've never seen that personally.
It's in his feet too.
And polyarthritis, or just generally arthritis, and rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is basically the same as arthritis, except syphilis is present. That's why you start getting those bone deformations.
We can treat that and cause a positive effect to rheumatoid arthritis.
You have to speak up a little.
We can treat rheumatoid arthritis.
Yes, absolutely. All the stuff that's on this list.
Wow.
Gout. Now, what I have found recently, and this is very unusual, with gout and arthritis, we know that typical aggravations are red meat, red wine. Well, guess what? Also, broccoli and kale. I mean, you need to test the individual.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, I love broccoli and kale.
Well, you're not having arthritis either,
No.
you know, so. Scarlatina. Scarlatina, of course, is scarlet fever. And many people had this as children, and it never went away. They're still carrying it around. Vaccininum. That is basically the ill effects of vaccinations. Now I want to go back to, well, specifically HIV. There's a misconception. If you have HIV, you have AIDS. That's wrong, completely. AIDS, in my experience, is a situation where the individual has syphilis, gonorrhea, all three forms of herpes, chlamydia, verruca, cytomegalovirus, cytomegalovirus, usually hepatitis, and tuberculosis. Now, they get HIV and their immune system collapses. Okay? It's just one too many things. That's what AIDS is the individual, you have to remember, it's called acquired immune deficiency. It's acquired. Someone has contracted so many pathogens that their immune system has collapsed. Homeopathically, we can't help them. Homeopathic remedies are designed to spark a specific response from the immune system. And there's no immune system to light a fire under. So if they actually are in the condition of full-blown AIDS, there's nothing we can can do for them. I've had at least a couple dozen people who had HIV. And it was no more difficult to get rid of than any of the other STDs. The gimmick was they didn't have all of the STDs. Right? Maybe a couple others, but I mean, they didn't have them all. So I have not found HIV to be any bigger a problem than herpes. Of course, Western medicine doesn't believe even herpes will go away, and I agree, if you use their medicine, it won't. Well, sorry.
Excuse me,
Shall we flip the page?
Question.
excuse me.
Oh,
Epstein-Barr, that's,
a virus.
fibromyalgia? Is that, is
Oh, shall we talk fibromyalgia? Sure.
Is that on here?
Let's flip the page.
Oh, it's on the next page?
Well, it can be now.
Okay.
So, we have general categories on one side, okay? And you should be looking at a page that shows bacteria's degeneration enzymes. Opens up like this. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah?
That's bullshit.
Fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a huge catch-all phrase, okay? Myalgia means pain. Fibro means in the fibers of your body. Okay? Now, most people knew that before they went to the doctor, right? All right? So it ends up being a big catch-all, that they just go, well, it's fibromyalgia. Or the other big one is arthritis. They'll go, oh, that's arthritis pain. One of the key characteristics for individuals with fibromyalgia is that it's a shifting pain. Like today, it's my elbow, and then tomorrow it's my hip, and then it's my low back. You know, it shifts from place to place. And what that really is on the page that has the degenerative category, it's called fibrosarcoma. And it is a degenerative condition, cancerous condition of the fibrous tissues, specifically connective tissue like tendons. And it's very treatable. I've had many cases of fibrosarcoma. Oftentimes the individuals with fibrosarcoma will also have in this category is osteogenic sarcoma, which is bone cancer. And I've seen numerous cases of those, and they go away. It takes time, because it's degenerative, cancerous. Our buddy syphilis is in the background.
Right.
He's causing the problem. So how's that on fibromyalgia? Okay? Okay. Now, it says here general categories. So what we're looking for here is we've already found and checked the most common pathogens. So here we want to know, are there other bacteria? So, there are other bacteria present? Yes or no? If you get a yes answer, right over here is the bacteria category. Go over and find it. The plot thickens. Then we have viruses next. So, aside from the ones I have, there are additional viruses? Yes. So you turn the page, and on the other side of the page, on the bottom, is a list of viruses. Then you can check that. Same things for toxin and degeneration. There's a category for each one of those. So if you get a weak response there, you go and look for whichever it is. You can see that we have so many toxins to choose from, and I'm sure that's not a complete list, but there are many. fungi, dysbiosis, parasites, because there are more parasites than the ones that were listed on the other page. And so if you go over here, you can see there's another parasite category. And you can have a look at those parasites to see if that's the one you're looking for. This next category doesn't show up very often because you've probably mostly already covered the one on tissue damage. Tissue damage is usually mostly arthritis. Sometimes there are some of these other conditions, but mostly it's just arthritis. The necrosis category would be, you know, a necrotic appendix or liver or kidney. Again, you don't find those very often. Then you're going to check pH, cholesterol, and blood pressure. And if any of those test as weak, you want to know whether it's high or low. Then vitamins, minerals, and lipids. This will let you know if the individual needs vitamins or mineral supplementation. That's very rare, although we all need vitamin C. Adults need about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Minerals, sometimes. Lipids, if that shows up, that means the lipids in the body are too high. And if those are too high, we go back to our old buddy, pancreas. Hormones. If you get a weak response there, then you want to see what hormone supplementation is necessary. And neurotransmitters. If someone has a concussion or MS or Parkinson's, their neurotransmitters could be low, and you might need to supplement the neurotransmitters. And you'll see as we get to the remedies, there's a variety of ways to supplement neurotransmitters. Enzymes. Sometimes because someone's digestive system is in such terrible shape that they need enzymes to help them with digestion. And typically that would be for a very short period of time because you're going to be working on repairing whatever is, you know, necessary. And so there is over here a category of enzymes, and you can just test to see which ones they need. EMF stress, electromagnetic field stress. That's a bigger and bigger deal all the time. We're just bombarded with, you know, microwaves and radio waves. And
Does that include the electric car?
yeah, the electric car is really a big deal. They're really a bad idea. Because you're sitting on top of this electric motor, which is generating a ton of EMF.
You know about like the hybrid then?
Yeah, the hybrids.
No, it's hybrid, same thing.
Yeah, yeah. It'll probably be a couple of decades until all the problems those are causing ever comes to the surface, because I don't really hear too many people talking about EMF stress, and it really is a big deal. EMF is just a nice word for radiation. That's what it is. It's radiation. Microwave, that's radiation. We can easily bombard ourselves with that, you know, spending a lot of time on a cell phone, spending a lot of time in front of a computer. Although those computers are getting better in terms of generating less. Nevertheless, we can bombard ourselves with that. The dilemma with EMF is that it's radiation, so your body recognizes it as a huge danger. So your immune system is doing everything it can to protect you from the EMF. And while it's doing that, it's not doing anything else. Oh, let's think about that. That's why people get off airplanes sick. Because when you get up above the atmosphere, you're being exposed to radiation. So your body is busy protecting you from that and could care less about the common cold. That's why you get off the airplane with a cold. EMF's a problem. if you find it for someone, there is a remedy that they can be given to help detox the EMF from their body. You need to test to find out if they're still in an environment where they're being bathed with the EMF. Oftentimes, it's going to be their work environment, so they can't change their work, and what they need is some sort of EMF protection. And there's a company called ewater.com that makes very good protectors.
Is that what Michelle?
The one Michelle has is not a very good quality product. Doesn't work very well.
It's called ewater.com.
Yeah.
Just the letter E and then water.
Yeah, and they have these EMF pendants that they make. And they work really well. They do what they're supposed to. I don't know if they still make them, but they also used to make a little ladybug that you could stick on your cell phone, and then she would soak up EMF. It's called a cell phone bug. I haven't looked online in a while. I don't know if they still have those. So yeah, EMF can be a big deal with some people. Okay, the next category is cysts. And you haven't got your books assembled yet, so I wouldn't even try looking for this.
Right.
But you would see that cysts is its own category, and it lists, oh gee, I'm not quite sure, looks like, I don't know, a couple hundred of them. And you can check to see exactly what kind of cyst it is. Then there are many diseases listed. So if you get a weak response on disease, you can go into the disease category and find it, and there's many pages of those. Fevers, this is a very handy category. When women show up with hot flashes, the hot flashes are truly a fever. And you can find out which one it is and make a specific remedy for the fever. Oftentimes, there's more than one. One woman holds the record. She had 14.
Oh my God.
Yes, oh my God was my response as well. I just kept testing, kind of, oh goodness. We finally did get rid of them. It was really a substantial number. I do not know why at a particular time in life these begin to manifest for women. Hormone therapy seems to suppress the response. It does not resolve the fever, but it suppresses it. I've been trying for a long time, trying to figure out what the trigger is, why it happens. And so I expect you guys to figure that out, because I haven't.
Well, I know for me, it's like that's the time period that I'm in. I'm, almost 53, and I find that when I'm active, because I don't really get hot flashes and stuff, I never have. Every blue moon, something, I'll feel that flush feeling. But I find that when I'm active and working out, walking, doing things, that I don't get the symptoms of so-called menopause. And so I don't know.
Well, first thing, if you said fevers, the first thing I thought of was a fever is burning, and burning could be rage. And just thinking back to Dr. Christiane Northrup when she was on Channel 28, she said, every month, if you haven't dealt with emotional issues, then your period can be preceded with these tears and all these issues if you haven't dealt with that. So I'm curious if that's something that could be tested.
Yeah, there could be an emotional component, certainly. What I find sometimes is that there will be, say, 2 or 3 fevers, and everything's fine for a few months, and then the flashes start again. And what it will be is just another fever has surfaced. I don't know why they don't all show up the first time. I have no clue.
Women like to be complicated.
I know, that would be too easy.
Yeah, that would be too easy.
Exactly.
So you can deal with them though, these annoying fevers.
Now, is there an easy way to, like if you're going down the fever list or the cyst list, is there an easy way to go through the list, or are you just going one at a time?
Oh, no, I'll show you.
Okay.
It's easy. And also, guys have these fevers too. There are these guys who run around in shorts and t-shirts no matter what the time of year. They have an ongoing fever.
You're having menopause, Joe.
I'm always hot.
Yeah,
Probably,
yeah, that will just be an ongoing fever.
What if you're somebody like me, who, my ideal temperature is 65, where I'm at, doesn't matter, any time of year, 65 degrees. I
Vampire.
like this, since I'm young to old till now, I like it in the 60s. That's my ideal weather. I'm comfortable in that.
And I'm comfortable at 80.
And that's, I'm uncomfortable in warm weather,
Okay, that's constitutional.
which means,
Our constitution is like who we are, right? I mean, you've heard that expression of this person has a strong constitution, or, right? It's an expression of who we are, and we all have different constitutions. And homeopathically, the way it's looked at is that each of us has a constitution that matches a remedy. The characteristics of that remedy match our characteristics in terms of what we like and dislike, those kinds of things. We will talk a little bit more about the constitutions. Yeah, yeah. Metals. You have over here on this page a list of metals. So if someone shows up with metal toxicity, find out which one, and they get a remedy. Poisons. That one doesn't come up too often, but you know, if someone does turn up being poisoned, you have a big, you know.
what was the name of that book that you had on the history?
Oh, yeah,
How
I
they're
remember
using
that.
to-
You were talking about that book.
You had a book on.
It's called Deadly Doses.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's hilarious to read. It's just hilarious.
Okay.
You don't have any list of poisons, because I'm sure it's a big list.
It is. It's right after fever and before syndrome.
Oh,
They go alphabetical.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's in there. It's in mine.
Okay.
yeah, it's all the poisons.
Yeah, there is a list of poisons. Syndromes. There's a lot of those. It's a really big section, the syndrome list. And then tumors. There's lots of different kinds of tumors. And once you've identified the tumor, you know, then you can just, if this tumor is benign, this tumor, right, is malignant. You can just discover that immediately. It seems to help, say over here we have a sand tumor, and over here, here's a germ cell tumor, that when I'm making the remedy, I could make sort of a general tumor remedy, but when I have a specific name, the remedy gets more specific also. That's why these things are all listed here. The syndrome stuff and the disease stuff does not really shed very much light on something. Like, let's see, here we have Whitmore's disease. Okay, well, you have Whitmore's disease. You know, and then we go and look that up, and it really doesn't tell us anything. Every once in a while, it might. It's just another little piece of information, right? So,
So where would you find that information? Where would you find it? On the internet, no? Google?
Oh, I have a, oh, absolutely. Today you just Google it, but, yeah, I have a big old medical dictionary, and I just look them up in there. And really 90% of the time, it doesn't shed any additional light on what you're trying to figure out. It's just sort of, oh, now it's given a name to that condition, right? Like most diseases and syndromes, when you read them, they're nothing more than a description of the condition. It does not speak to cause. Every once in a while, they'll say, we think this might be related to some other disease, which then tells you nothing also. Okay, it's time for a break. I've done too much.
Are we gonna get a copy of this tape?
I'm not sure what I'm gonna do.
I see it said that.